Becoming a co-founder later on in the journey is probably a very rare event. It's much more rare than actually becoming the founder.
Building any business is a long-term game. You have to really be at it. You go through lots of ups and downs. You have seen Livspace from day one. I remember when we invested, it was going to be a tech-led discovery, backend going to be all modular. The same leg will go under a table and also under a sofa.
Right.
Clearly, as you guys started building the business, things changed.
When we started, a lot of folks who have experience in this industry told us, it's impossible for a studio to serve 100 customers in a month. And we actually never thought about 100 actually. If we can tell our number, it would sound crazy. It will go in millions. We were just present in few metro cities of India. We didn't go actually even covered all metro cities.
You saw the demand still?
Though the demand was there and the internet demand was there, but we were still in, I would say, Bangalore, Gurgaon and maybe some part of Bombay. That's it. For good 4-5 years. And immediately in the next 2 years, after 4-5 years, we were present in 25 cities. So it was based on
home buying and home design are one of the crucial decisions and very infrequent once in 10 years decision that consumers take in their lives. Back in 2013, when I invested behind Livspace, while everybody understood the problem, there's always a big question on how is it a venture investable model. Today we have with us Saurabh Jain, co-founder and CEO of Livspace India. Saurabh started his journey with his education from IIT Delhi in undergrad there, then a couple of consulting firms like Everest and Accenture, then started his own business, DezignUp, and then in early days of Livspace, became part of Livspace, over time became co-founder of Livspace. So Saurabh, thank you for joining us in this journey.
Thank you.
And being on the show.
Thanks.
Saurabh, what we'll start with is first of all, your own journey of how you landed at Livspace. So this was, I think, around 2015.
It was 2015, yes.
2015, right?
Yes.
When you were running DezignUp and then you joined Livspace. So first of all, tell us a little bit about DezignUp itself. Why did you start? And over time, why do you feel that the right place was to become part of Livspace?
Sure. So just to sort of give a background about myself, I'm Saurabh. I'm from Delhi, born in a very typical middle-class family, middle-class values, a lot of focus on education, and hence went to IIT Delhi. Did sort of some stint in various consulting firms. Fortunately for me, the firms which I entered were very early in their nature, in their journey as well. So I got a good mix of, startup and consulting both. And then went to ISB as well. And then thought, I had to create a bigger impact and hence started DezignUp. And the idea behind DezignUp was, at that time, there was a lot of product commerce that has already started happening on internet. And internet actually became the go-to place for people to discover anything and everything. And we thought, why it's not possible for services as well, and then home services, of course, came to our mind, and the new sort of customer who's sort of relying on internet to discover home professionals like designers, architects, plumbers, electricians, various other professionals on industry. We thought, we can bring them in onto the platform and help customers discover the right professionals. There are a couple of players like House.com which were very successful in the US. So we sort of drew some inspiration from there and launched that in India.
And how was that journey? Like, did that work out? What were you learning?
There was so the learnings were good in terms of there were a lot of discovery that was happening online. So people were definitely trying to search. They need some home professional for some work at their home. So from a discovery standpoint, it was getting traction, but there were no transactions that were happening essentially. But the discovery was great. So that's how it sort of began. And when we were sort of about to fundraise, we got an opportunity to interact with other startups, early stage startups operating in this space. And hence Livspace came into the picture. And we thought, both of us are on the same mission in a way. Livspace is also trying to disrupt the home interior industry in a much larger way. So why don't we join hands together early on and, become the part of the common mission?
Interesting. And, generally I've seen when these M&As or acquisition happen, somebody who's getting acquired after a few years or few months, those founders go on and on their own journey start something new. but you chose a path to stick around, grow with Livspace. Why, and what was the rationale behind that decision?
Sure. Very interesting question. So, see, we firmly believed in that the home services industry could be disrupted in a bigger way. While people have disrupted the product commerce in many, many ways, the services still remained negligible on the internet. So, I think we joined Livspace with that thought in mind. So, I think the exit was never the objective that we had, very frankly. The objective was to create something big in this industry and really transform it. And very fortunate when we came to Livspace, we were given the sort of right sort of culture, right sort of ownership, and resources and means to accomplish that. So it never felt that we were off from the track or the mission that we had imagined back in DezignUp. No, so it felt the same. It is a sort of continuing the same journey in a way, and it still feels the same. And that's how
I have to give it to Anuj and Ramakant. They've been
Yes.
great founders, having cultivated culture and leadership within the organization. This title of co-founder, in very few cases it happens. Like I know Zomato had Mohit join as co-founder, and there are a few other examples. What does that mean? As in, what is the difference between you being a senior leadership of Livspace versus a co-founder of Livspace?
See, becoming a co-founder later on in the journey is probably a very rare event. It's much more rare than actually becoming the founder because the cases are very handful. So it's definitely, I would say it's very difficult as well because there has to be a value addition from both the sides because the company is already existing. It has started. It has started and also achieved something. So I think first from the company standpoint that, why company, does the company need another co-founder now? So the person has to deliver something very, very meaningful that can change the trajectory of the company in the long term. I think so. That was, I bought a lot of such skills like handling business, operations, supply chain, which are core to, what Livspace is today. So that's of course one. Second is, again, between a senior professional and founder or co-founder, I think there is from a hard skill perspective, there's not much difference. But in terms of commitment, in terms of ownership, in terms of mindset, in terms of entrepreneurial energy, in terms of a fighter attitude, the difference is between day and night actually. So, so I think that those are the things which are really important and differentiate.
And then, can you tell us about the CEO title? As in, there are two founders in the company. You are the CEO.
Yes.
Again, what does?
So I'm the CEO for the India business actually. So India sort of contributes to close to 80-85% of our business today. So just to give a background, I think so. What we do at Livspace is homeowner comes to discovers us online. Actually, they have recently purchased a home and is looking for somebody to get the interiors done. That's when we come into the picture. And customers actually want a underwritten branded experience from us. Somebody who can, really, in a hassle-free manner, in a very convenient manner, transform their home into, a beautiful interiors in a way. So it's a very, technology is at the core of the business, but there are businesses, there are operations, there is supply chain, which make this journey very seamless and hassle-free. So that's where, my role comes in. So as a part of, handling the India business, what I take care of is the end-to-end customer journey right from the discovery to the fulfillment of the home, which is, core part of our operations actually.
Building any business is a long-term, game. You have to really be at it. You go through lots of ups and downs. You have seen Livspace from day one. I remember when we invested, it was going to be a tech-led discovery.
Yeah.
Backend going to be all modular. The same leg will go under a table and also under a sofa.
Right.
Clearly, as you guys started building the business, things change. Can you walk us through some of those important inflection points? Sure. Decisions you took, something might have gone wrong. A lot of things went right. Obviously, you're the market leader now. So, walk us through the journey from those days to what Livspace is today.
Sure. No, very interesting actually. So, see, what I remember is Livspace actually started as, selling looks online. So by looks, I mean, imagine a living room. There's a sofa, there's a table, there are a couple of chairs, etc. And so and we just sort of thought, customers when they're doing the interiors, they need a set of products together. So why can't we sell the set of the products online? And by these set of products, they are personalized in nature. So somebody can change the color of the fabric, color of the sort of legs, etc. All of that. This was the beginning, I think, of Livspace. But very soon we realized two things actually. First, and which is also an inflection point, is while customers are definitely coming to discover it, they're not purchasing it online. Because the purchase is so infrequent, the purchase is of a very higher value, the purchase is also emotional to the customers, that you need an assistance and a tactile experience to fulfill it. So I think it was very early in our journey when actually omni-channel was not even a word. We, I would say, introduced the assistance and offline component both to our model. And that, I believe, was the first inflection point of Livspace. That's where the real sale started happening. So the internet discovery was, of course, the wave that we were trying to capture. But to convert into real sales, we introduced a lot of assistance and a lot of offline. Both of these components weren't, I would say, were the obvious ones, were the favorite as well for the market, actually.
Yeah.
But that made sense for the kind of purchase that we were doing, the kind of sort of, business we were running. So, of course, that's the first inflection point. And it took us time to iterate on both of them. Because, all of us were coming from a, more internet first, digital first kind of background. And now our business had a component of both sales, assistance, and offline. So it took us some time, but that, in hindsight, probably was the best decision. So that's, of course, one. Second, I would say, again, a counterintuitive point and an inflection point was when we started selling, we discovered customers need to personalize things a lot. So the purchase, again, is so infrequent. You're probably doing this purchase only once or two times in a lifetime, right? So people want it in their own way. So while the concept of, in general world is keep fewer stock units, sell them more, standardize more, all of that. Again, a counterintuitive point is personalize it more. So then sort of what we introduced internally was personalization at scale. So which means, of course, and we never entered this business to just create one design studio. We, of course, wanted to serve thousands and thousands of customers. We want to, really build a big business. So while personalization was the demand of the customer, scale was sort of an aspiration from our end as well. So we sort of married that too and actually embedded this philosophy across the nuts and bolts of company, which is personalization at scale, which means customers are actually getting what they want, but at the back end, we can manufacture it, produce it, deliver it at scale. So that, I would say, was the second inflection point, which worked for us. Again, very counterintuitive also. The third one also, I would say, is again slightly different from the times that Livspace was sort of starting up, is we pivoted from a pure marketplace to a more branded experience model.
What does that mean?
Which means, I think, see, for example, I think we were all inspired by Flipkart and Amazons of the world in a way wherein, you provide a platform for customers to transact and suppliers to have a lot of products, and you essentially, build a large business from there. While in our sort of category, customers need somebody to underwrite the promise end to end, which means own fulfillment in a way, own fulfillment. And that's where we sort of, I would say, pivoted also from a pure marketplace, which means not owning the designers to actually now having in-house designers, from project managers to in-house project managers, to also controlling the supply chain in a very meaningful way. Not just onboarding vendors, but actually moving to contract manufacturing, controlling our own raw material, producing our own design. So that was, I would say, the third pivotal movement for us, wherein we sort of listened to the customers and provided that branded underwritten experience. And that enabled us to serve thousands of customers that we are delivering today. Otherwise, it would have been, I think, very difficult to gain that trust.
Very interesting. Now, when you bring things in-house,
Yeah.
chances are not enough variety can be provided. As in, you then become a certain kind of design sensibility.
That's true.
You just move or vary a little bit here and there. How do you maintain enough variety, despite controlling more and more of the supply chain?
That is true. That I think technology definitely plays a very critical role there. So I think the way we leverage technology is to scale these components massively. For example, let's take the example of a supply chain. While we keep the core materials, raw materials, let's say plywood, MDF, etc., and control them, we manufacture the kitchen in a batch size one kind of format, which means the manufacturing is for individual customer, but the raw material is sourced in a bulk. So which means we also enjoy the economies of scale, because that's what business has to do, but customer also get a lot of personalization. So I think in most of the live space components, you will see an element of economies, an element of personalization embedded. So for example, even at a designer, a lot of design templates we leverage, so that designer productivity can be enhanced. But of course, the last level of personalization is what designers are trying to do. So that's where I think our infrastructure, technology plays a very critical role. So we standardize a lot of things that go in the background, but the last leg of it, we try to personalize and customize a lot. And that, of course, delivering it in various parts of the value chain is hard. And it's also a moat for us.
Talking about the last leg, I remember in early days, when visited few houses during diligence, realized that in India, houses, where the two walls meet, the angle may not be actually right angle. Yes. Taps are here, there, everywhere. Yes. Customers will say, can you do my bathroom also? And can you do my plumbing also? How do you, what calls have you taken on the last mile execution? What to do, what not to do? And then whatever you do, how do you make sure that things happen as per that particular house?
Right. So see, of course, we did a lot of iterations and corrections over there, but we very early on, we started taking end-to-end responsibility of the house. I think that's also a difference between how we approach the problem versus many other players approach the problem. So we never shied away from taking an end-to-end responsibility, because that's where customers wanted. And along the journey, we attempted at solving, standardizing in some way each of these components. For example, we standardized the modular products first. Then we standardize a lot of wall products later on. We standardize ceilings later on. So one component after the other. And there are few components which we are still, in a way standardizing, right? So that's a long journey. But I think we sort of stick to the problem. The problem in the real world is customer wanted end to end, in a way. And some products, of course, we are able to solve it faster in, let's say, a couple of years. And some products took 3-4 years, because the supply chain is also very fragmented and very unorganized in this industry.
And it is hard to talk about a company's 10-year journey without talking about COVID. And it was very uncertain time, yes. Unfortunate time, but for a business, what was going on? There would be months where there's lockdown, there is no business, you have a large team ready, you're a full stack model, your suppliers are ready, your material is there. Then things came back, suddenly demand shoots to beyond what you can execute. Again, there is a lockdown. How did you go about dealing with COVID?
It was very, I'm sure, difficult phase for everybody, for us as well. I mean, the entire, business dropped to sort of pretty much zero. There was no activity happening. I mean, how interiors would happen actually. Everybody in a way understood the situation, and we had a lot of in-house capacities. So we ensured that, we keep those capacities in some shape or form. Nobody knew when the demand will come back, in a way. So it was very uncertain in time, actually. So we did whatever we could. We tried to sort of rationalize costs as well, optimize various things that we could. But to our surprise, when the demand did come back, there was so much pent-up sort of demand. And then suddenly we were understaffed. And suddenly then there was again hiring spree in the company. We were onboarding left, right and center, suppliers, customers, everybody. So yeah, that was a phase wherein, of course, business dipped to zero again, and then shot up to sort of 2x again. So yeah, so that was a phase that all of us went through.
Got it. And as a CEO, at least I believe that one of the important roles of something that is at scale of Livspace is all about resource allocation, org design, making sure there is enough capital available, yep, to run the initiatives. What have been some of the choices you have made in past. Let's say around resource allocation on what to do, what not to do, how to design the org. If you can share some of those, choices, that would be great.
Got it. Org design in general, I think it's one of the most important component while building. I mean, because eventually it's the execution sort of which is the most critical. So, so what I think a couple of instances where I can share is, for example, we introduced a 2-person sales model, which was very new to this industry. So, if you go outside of Livspace, it's generally the designer who's selling to the customers. Right? And while designer is really good at the design job, might not be the best at the selling job. So we introduced a business manager, and it's a business manager and designer that go together to sell to the customer, right? So suddenly, we see a lot of change in our funnel behavior continuously. So that is one example of org change that we did, which is different from the industry. And I think that principle is really critical. We understood specifically in our industries. See, in many areas of the business, you need depth. So you need more domain leaders, but you need to scale as well. So you need the first principle folks as well. So I think we just understood and appreciated this fact. Instead of forcing the domain leaders to become first principle thinkers, or instead of forcing first principle thinkers to learn the domain, we found out models where we could marry the both. So that's one example. There could be many other examples. I'll say again a very counterintuitive one. In our case, for the business, the sourcing is not done by typical HR. The sourcing of people. Sourcing of people is not done by, because sourcing of people, we treat people as a core input to our business, and there's a lot of cost. There's a lot of skill mapping that is required. There's a lot of training in business context that is required. So we actually groomed some business head, very senior business head in our company, to actually lead the sourcing for the business itself. Otherwise, it was becoming very difficult for domain folks to understand what we are talking about. So these kind of calls, of course, we took along the journey, but really married both scale and depth at each component of the business. I think if I can talk in terms of principle and framework, that has helped us to scale and also maintain the quality and the depth in the business at the same time.
And again, when you become large, you look for future areas of growth.
Yeah.
So again, from resource allocation there, then are there business initiatives you experimented, said no to, versus saying let's go deep and do more of the same, or more of those areas?
Definitely. I mean, for the first 4 or 5 years, to give an example, we were just present in few metro cities of India. We didn't go actually even covered all metro cities.
You saw the demand still didn't.
Though the demand was there and the internet demand was there, but we were still in, I would say, Bangalore, Gurgaon, and maybe some part of Bombay. That's it. For good 4 or 5 years. And immediately in the next 2 years, after 4 or 5 years, we were present in 25 cities. So it was based on call in terms of we need to at least do a version 1, version 2 perfection of our business, at least make it optimized to a contribution margin before we scale it to the other cities. But when that was ready, we then push the pedal to the maximum. And now as we are speaking, Livspace is currently present in close to 60 cities of India, and we are going to expand into more 150 to 200 cities of India. Like it was difficult for us to also imagine, can we really enter a tier 3 city? But now we have the model, that allow us to enter even a tier 3 city wherein the demand is not of hundreds or thousands orders per month, but maybe few tens orders a month. So those kind of calls are definitely important, and we took those calls in terms of how to grow. What are the right ways to grow? Where to put the focus on? Again, to give an example, in the initial years, and why we didn't go to different geographies is we were still trying to perfect our supply chain. And by perfect, I mean, a decent level of supply chain. So we were going deep into the factories, how they manufacture. We were going deep into the raw material sourcing. We were going deep into the design of the product, how the product is QC'd, how the product is installed. Right? So there was a lot of depth which was happening at the background of the company. And when that was established, so we put a lot of resources, a lot of money, and we knew because if we can crack this, then the demand is ready to be served. But if we don't do this, then there is no point in actually getting more demand. We will, the scale would harm us rather than benefiting us. So you need to sort of focus on what you need to solve before scaling it, and then leverage the scale again to make it better in terms of economies and tats, etc.
Got it. And sort of always this question of how much is tech important in a model like yours? Today, where you are, like, can you cite few examples where it is not a ERP kind of tech, but a tech that actually makes you stand apart as a company?
Sure. Okay. So I'll start with the basic one actually. Very 101 is, we generate our demand digitally, very frankly. So I think the origination of the company is there was digital demand available on the internet. And to generate that, of course, you need tech. So that's one area, of course, we leverage it really well. For our business specifically, I'll tell a term, we call it as D2M2I, which is called
D2M2I, okay.
which is called design to manufacturing to installation. So, before Livspace, I would say the design, manufacturing and installation of a product, they were happening in different silos. There were a lot of papers that were actually physical papers, like somebody was designing on a paper, which was giving to a manufacturer. They were producing something else and then giving it to somebody on site to install it, right? To integrate that, we leverage deep technology. And to give an example of technology is, we have a proprietary design software which designers use actually, and where they can customize a product and they can see real-time pricing, and also the product is in real time pushed to the machines of the manufacturer directly. So there is no passing of paper. Design is directly pushed to the machine, and machines are reading the barcodes and cutting the product automatically, drilling the product automatically. Packaging is happening in a perfect format. And to give you an idea, the kitchen is close to 250 to 300 boxes when they come at a home. And you imagine two installers, how much time they can take to segregate those 250 to 300 boxes if it is not, you don't have a complete visibility of which box to open first and which panels to install first. So there's a sequence to things. So and our installation, in kitchen currently happens in 2 days, less than 2 days actually. So that's again a place where we leverage technology in depth. Yeah, a couple of examples like this.
Very interesting. Very interesting. Any, in terms of future trends in your area of business, anything that you are very excited about, including role of technology, but even beyond role of technology?
Sure. So I think a couple of trends is, when we started to now, I would definitely see consumers are more educated about the design sensibilities. So at Livspace as well, I mean, we are launching many more offerings to serve to these customers. We are the leader in the interiors, and interiors is not, a homogeneous word. When we go sort of in depth of this industry, now there are different kind of demands originating. To give an example, there are NRIs owning a property in India, want to get interior done and put it on rental. So that's a use case. This use case is probably 15-20% of the real estate inventory. There are sons and daughters buying a home for their parents. They are living somewhere else and they are getting the home decorated for the parents to live in. So that has a different design sensibility. There are, of course, predominant use case like husband and wife, of course, living, in a different city and getting home done for us, which is, of course, the dominant use case. But apart from this use cases, there are other significant use cases that are emerging now. And people want a similar branded experience in these sort of use cases as well. So we are going very deep in terms of understanding these use cases in depth and crafting a specific solution for these. For example, we recently launched an offering called Vinciago by Livspace, which caters to a price point, of interior starting from 30 lakhs and goes up to 1 crore. So because there's a significant new TG that are now owning penthouses, owning villas, for example, and spending this much on the interiors, which was earlier available to maybe I would say the old economy owning independent houses. So I would say the opportunity at our end is to recognize these use cases early on and crafting good solution on this. I think second sort of I would say an opportunity or trend that we are seeing is there's a lot of new materials, new design styles which are coming in India. India is sort of now have high aspirations, and a lot of while the design originates in Europe and other part of the world, there's a need to bring them faster and faster to India. So that's another area where we are working on how soon can we bring the latest world designs in India and serve to the customers. So yeah, a couple of these areas.
What about anything you find use of generative AI as far as future of Livspace is concerned? Where could it be used?
Sure, no, definitely. See, a lot of use cases, but one which I definitely like to share is a couple of them actually. One is a lot of design automation can be done. And design is complex. For example, it's a 3D space, and there's a customer requirement as well, and there's a site dependency also. So it's slightly difficult, but now with the help of the data that we have and the technology that is emerging, there is possible to at least automate the design to a good version 1 level. So that is one area, where.
But will you be able to implement it also? Like GenAI can think all kind of weird stuff.
Yeah. I think we can definitely enable the designers.
Understood.
So
they can modify
it, but at least get to a good version 1 level. Like get to a good 80% correct level, and then have designers do the rest 20-30% on top of it.
Got it.
So that's one example, of course, where things are looking promising.
Interesting. Now, I remember in early days, when Livspace were thinking of next round, there's always this question on frequency of purchase. This is a one-time purchase, right? So yes, somebody has paid you 10 lakh rupees, but that's it, the customer is gone. As you see Livspace today, what is the view in terms of are people coming again and again to buy more from you? How have you expanded the offering to enable that?
Got it. So I think customer buying one time is the reality, because that's where because customers have purchased the home and want to get the home interiors done, it's unlikely they will do it second time. So that's one. I think the metric for us is different, and which brings us closer to the CLTV CAC kind of metric is the referral. So in this industry, in this business, if you're doing a good job, the organic and referral starts kicking in much more, which is actually the same effect in terms of repeat. Close to 50% of our new bookings today are organic in nature.
Wow.
So that is the kind of efficiency that we are seeing in the business today. There is definitely an opportunity for Livspace to also upsell a lot of products post an interior journey. We are working on that. But largely today, what we are focused on is the interiors journey of the customer.
Whenever you hired senior professionals, right, into assimilating them into Livspace, being okay with the fast pace of the startup journey that you have gone through, what do you look for in those people beyond core, whatever functional skills that you're looking for?
Sure. It's a very tricky area, I would say. So hiring senior professionals both ways, from their perspective as well and company perspective as well, is a very tricky area. First of all, I think my sense is not every area one should hire senior professionals. It's better to actually groom in-house leaders to become senior professionals in many areas which are very nuanced to your business. For example, the kind of sourcing experience that I talked about. So if something is very nuanced to the kind of business model you have made and which is not available outside, it's very hard to have a senior professional from outside and then adapt to this new environment. And I think in many companies it has happened, in new age companies it has happened. The senior professionals that we hire, or any startup at late stage, medium stage, wants to hire, is probably because of the kind of experience they have. And that experience, that knowledge should be relevant as is. If it's not relevant if it's relevant with too many modifications, in my opinion, it is most likely to fail. So 10-20% here and there is okay, But it can't be, we are hiring somebody with a background and experience, but we want that person to change completely overnight. I don't think that's going to happen. That's going to be a disappointment for both sides. And I think that's a sort of opportunity at the senior professionals level also to really understand what is the value they can add at this stage of the company. Or they really need to adopt a new way to build things, which is very different from the way they have built things in the past. If that is the case, I think it's better to have more young energy do it, and more in-house sort of grooming would turn out to be a better return for that.
Any one or two questions you asked to in your interviews to check for cultural fit? And you will have to change that question now if you disclose it, but if you can disclose it.
See, we definitely check for, in general, our conversation. See, we are a huge proponent of, very tiny egos.
Okay.
So we definitely want people to be very humble, be open to learning, be open to contradictions, be open to newer findings, even that challenge the core areas that they are working with. If that is something which we are comfortable with, we probably won't go ahead.
And is that because that's how you wanted the company to be, or is it more because you are in a services industry? If you have a big ego, it's very hard to...
No, it's because of, the way we are trying to disrupt the industry. See, the industry before us was fragmented. It's still fragmented actually largely, and we are trying to organize it. So most of the principles are actually going to be disrupted here in a way. So is somebody open to that? For example, when we started, a lot of folks who have experience in this industry told us, it's impossible for a studio to serve 100 customers in a month. And we actually never thought about 100 actually. If we can tell our number, it would sound crazy. It will go in millions. So yeah, so what we are looking for is definitely people to be more open to first principle thinking, to data, and really work in full honesty, honest attempt, transparency. So very basics, I would say.
One last question to first of all commend you on the brand that you've built, and then the marketing campaign behind that brand, which is the classic. I don't think anybody can forget if somebody says home design, Anushka, Virat, the campaign comes to mind. Can you tell us a little bit of what was going, was that the idea, or did it surpass expectation? How did you come about putting all of that together?
Sure, no, definitely I think it stemmed again from the learning that, customers need an underwritten experience from a brand. So we were very clear that, we need to build a consumer brand in this space. And in a way, it is sort of defining for this category also. People don't think of interiors as a category in terms of when it comes to the brand, actually. So the work at hand was very difficult. How can we really convert interiors into a category, and then Livspace being the dominant brand in that category? And hence, a sort of, large scale kind of brand push that we had in terms of the brand faces that we took really helped us to reach and cut through that audience and message and establish ourselves as a brand in this space, which earlier, nobody thought there could be a brand in this space actually.
Was that particular idea?
Yeah.
Did it take a lot of iterations to arrive at what messaging to give, or was it so obvious?
No, it took a lot of iterations. But what we were still, I think what we knew is, we definitely people want good designs at, a lot of convenience and hassle-free way. And we sort of stick to that in a way. And because every homeowner aspires to have a house that, looks beautiful. That is the core. And also the execution happens in the most hassle-free way. So those were the two central, themes, and it was built on that.
No, very great job there. Moving on to the rapid fire questions, the last few questions, and would love to get your response on that. What do you think differentiates from founders and successful professionals?
Got it. Okay, so I think if you look at it from the perspectives of in terms of hard skills, work, talent, all of that, I don't think there's too much difference. But if you shift the focus to in terms of mindset, there is a large difference. I mean, the difference is huge actually in terms of ownership, the difference is also very high. See, let me put it this way. I mean, see, senior professionals are very good at in terms of if they want to execute something, deliver something in a given constraints. Founders can change that constraint and environment. They have the power to change that. They have the ability to think of a different environment and different constraints. So they can change the paradigm. And in a startup journey, till actually you become very big, that paradigm shifts a lot every time. So yeah, so that's the difference, if I'm able to explain it.
Got it. No, very well explained. Do you like reading books?
Yes, I do.
Anything that you would recommend to the audience, one or two books that you really...
Sure. See, the way, see, the work is very fast paced, very frankly. And so what I try to do is maintain equilibrium that's the intent. In generally, other things that I do outside of work is to sort of balance it out. Hence I try to read more spiritual, more philosophy, more lighter books, I would say. Which
philosophy is not light, but
light
for
in
me
terms
at
of
least.
light in terms of which brings a different side to the life. Because otherwise you are always, of course, discussing numbers, metrics, you are chasing something. It's a different pace of life. A balance for me, I think it's required, and hence I sort of read this kind of stuff. Autobiography of a Yogi is a great read.
I still not finished. I had read that book for like, I think,
and I'm reading one more currently. Interesting one is I'm sure people would know it or not. It's called Yaksh Prashn. It's actually questions that appeared in one section of Mahabharata, wherein Yudhishthir sort of encountered Yam in the form of Yaksh, and he asked 126 questions.
The book is only in that?
The book is also about that. So I'm currently midway through that book, but it's definitely very interesting. I think all of this read is a way for me to just balance out the speed, very frankly. That's what I do.
Very true. If you were to change one thing about Indian startup, and you have been in this industry for more than 10 years now, what would you change?
So I think, so one thing which has actually changed is, as many startups came to late stage and eventually to public market, and later on, I think there's a lot of correction towards business fundamentals that has already, you know it better than me, is imbibed in even early stage startups now. A lot of focus on EBITDA, cash, return metrics, etc. So that one thing is definitely has helped everybody, including us, and has changed. Second thing is, which I would definitely like to change is, or would like to happen is, what will happen to a startup that is not mega successful and is successful, but to not a great scale? Is there a exit market to that? To the founders, to investors, to everybody. Because if that happens, I think that will change the startup scene of India. Completely.
I'm sure with people like you going IPO and all, you will become natural acquirers for some of these businesses.
But definitely would like to see that happen more, because it's not possible to generate mega scale winners
for every company.
Every time.
Very true. Very true. Any common myth about Indian startup that you would like to debunk?
I would say, so people think working in a startup is cool. It's not at all cool. It's very hard. Startup offers, of course, immense growth to somebody, because it's still a open sort of wide canvas. But one needs to really work hard to realize that growth for themselves, in terms of commitment, in terms of ownership, in terms of delivery, in terms of getting your hands dirty. I think that is the real side, very frankly. That's when one would really get the benefit of the growth that a startup can offer.
At a more personal level, somebody you know and who you feel has had the most impact on you, who would that person be?
For me, to the people I know personally, I think the most impact would have been, my teachers actually, in very early stage of my journey, in my sort of when we were preparing for exams in a way. So a couple of teachers actually that had a very deep impact on me in terms of not just in the knowledge that they have and they were transferring, but in terms of how patient they were with all of us. And I found that to be great. I found in general I value learning, and I value sharing of learning to be a great thing. So that has, of course, and those teachers relating even academics with life, with deeper philosophy, deeper meaning of things. Those are the things which have stayed with me today as well. So yeah.
That's true. I'm sure you love what you do, but let's say you were not doing this and you had a choice to do something else, maybe a different profession, what would that be?
It's hard for me to imagine actually what profession it would be, but definitely, if not this, I would be definitely running a business for sure. If not this, then something else, because I knew very early on that I wanted to create a big impact and have something where I am leading it and disrupting things. If not this industry, maybe something else that I don't know, very frankly, and very agnostic to that also. But definitely a business, and a business wherein can serve thousands and thousands of customers. Again, I think I generally like building more consumer business. I think like that. What are the changes? What are the unmet demands that we can give to the consumer? And solving that problem in a people, process, technology-enabled way also comes naturally to me. So maybe something in that area.
But I'm sure you're loving what you're doing at Livspace, so continue doing that. Saurabh, thanks a ton for spending your time sharing insights about your journeys, about Livspace, and some fun factoids. So thanks again. I'm sure our viewers will like
Sure. Okay.
and learn from that.
Yeah. Thanks, Rahul. Thank you.
Bye.